Hi folks, you're with Tassless today. Tassless today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the situation of two completely separate and different and far apart information ecosystems. Now, there are people out there, and plenty of them, by the way, that get all their information from the mainstream globalist controlled media. Now, the globalist controlled media, as you know, is tightly coordinated, centrally scripted. They all run off the same talking points. So it doesn't matter whether you're looking at MSNBC in the United States, or you're looking at the BBC in Britain, or the CBC in Canada, or the Australian Broadcasting Commission in Australia. It doesn't matter. All of these, they go off exactly the same talking points, exactly the same coordinated scripts. So they're not reflecting local news or local analysis. There is no analysis. It's all propaganda and relies very heavily on lies to stay within that information ecosystem. The New York Times and this tight information ecosystem, this tightly scripted, centrally coordinated and so on ecosystem is where most people get their, or I don't know, most, probably half the populace get their information from. Now, it takes some effort to step outside it's harder work. You have to spend more time stepping outside that ecosystem if you want other information or alternative information. And then you have to spend time thinking about it and sort of accepting that the news or the information is maybe more nuanced than you've been led to believe. But that's not what most people do. And I know people who are senior lawyers, senior court judges, people at the apex of the education establishment and so on, and they only get their news from the globalist scripted sources. It doesn't come, and they believe it, and believe it fervently. So not only have the globalists succeeded in telling all these lies and coordinating the scripting and centrally scripting it, and so not only have they done that, because it's international scripting. They're getting the same scripting in Germany as we do in Australia, and that's so the effect of this has been to radicalize people as well. There are people out there, again, senior judges and so on, getting paid $500,000+ a year who believe, they're Nazis are everywhere. The people that vote for Donald Trump are all these low-life, troglodyte, knuckle-dragging, swastika-wearing Nazis. They're the ones. Now, when you try and engage them at any sort of level, say, all right, so are you saying that 75 million people in the US are Nazis with swastikas? I mean, really? I mean, can you? Oh, well, maybe. And then the arms begin to fold and they get a bit defensive because no one ever pushes back. If they're around a table of folks that, again, are all getting their information from the same source, and one of them says, America's overrun with swastika waving Nazis. Everyone goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they all sort of confirm each other's idiotic, low IQ prejudices. But these aren't low IQ people. These are people with above average IQ. Well, maybe not all of them, but certainly, the ones there, they are people who've been to all the Ivy League high schools. They've had the very best education that Australia can offer. Again, Ivy League wall to wall. Some of the schools that they've been to, the high schools that they've been to, have produced more captains of industry than any other school. This sort of thing. So if you want, and again, the old boy network and connections and the old school tie play a role in this. But nonetheless, this is the best education that the country has to offer, and they've had it. Yet here they are parroting the idiotic talking points of MSNBC or CNN or the New York Times. And I think to myself, sitting quietly at the table, because you've got to be a little careful. Again, I've mentioned some very gentle stuff in a couple of places, and we haven't been invited back there since, and we were regular guests at these sort of things. But just suggesting that the 2020 presidential election in the US had some irregularities, that's been enough. Not invited to those places anymore. That's how vicious the retaliation and how malicious it is. You know, you're not even allowed to sit at the table, even if they think you don't even have to voice it. If they even think you have an alternative point of view, that's enough to be taken off the guest list. That's again how vicious they are, which is a pity, because these people are all very well to do. The lunches and the dinners they put on have the best cuts of steak and the finest wines, and so I'm feeling hard done by missing out on all this frivolity and gaiety. But coming back to the information ecosystems here, these people they believe the nonsense that we are overrun with Nazis. Everyone that votes for Trump is a Nazi and waves a swastika and these sorts of things. And also the women, you know, did you know that Trump has removed all the reproductive rights of women? So no one can have an abortion anyway, and all women are going to die, and they get all worked up. And what legislation are you talking about exactly? Roe versus Wade. Roe. Well, hold on, wait, stop. All the courts did was say it's not a federal matter anymore, and they've returned it to the states. And states like California, New York, and so on, you can abort the child or the baby up until I think it's 36 or 40 weeks or something. You know, so what abortion rights are women lost? Oh, they should have complete sovereignty over their own bodies. No, wait a minute, but they can, you can abort a baby up to you know, the full term. You can, you know, a fully born baby doing its full term, and you can still euthanize. You know, that's where have women? Oh, women have to travel 10 million, 100,000 miles to be able to. No, they don't. You know, there are 20 states that have very generous abortion, and you know, even the states that would be the toughest on abortion, I think the abortion is like 14 weeks. And even then, if you can prove there's any danger to the health of the woman, and or if it's rape, or if it's incest, or it's this or it's that, then there are escape clauses there. So how are women being oppressed? Oh, they are. Their sovereignties, and Trump is doing. And again, it's very emotional and non-factual. So this shows that the tightly scripted, coordinated globalist ecosystem relies very heavily on lies. There's not a single point, certainly that I've heard around these tables, or for that matter, when I look at mainstream media, there's not a single point they make that's accurate. When you look at the hit pieces against Trump in the lead up to the election, they were, you know, ranged from a very generous sprinkling of lies and misrepresentations to hysterical lies. You know, it's quite possible that people will never vote again because literally Hitler, and it's possible that America will and everybody will die, and they'll die in pain, and you know, and the things they say, the hysteria is just off the charts. But yet it's all coordinated, because you read that same story in Australia, and then that same story is running in the British media, and then in the Canadian media, and the American media, and the German media, and the French media, the Irish media. It's everywhere across the Western world, that same talking point, scripted in the same way and delivered in the same. They might slightly flavour it for the local audience, but otherwise it's the same. So this is propaganda, because it's not based in any sort of truth. It's hysterical lies that have been pushed, and but it successfully penetrates and controls that information ecosystem. Now, you know, one of the interesting things was about people watching the election, you know, watching it live on TV and cable and so on, how it's been the lowest audience for a long time. But interestingly, how many tens of millions, in fact, social media, you know, people looking at it online, and you know, looking across a range of channels. It could have been the Daily Wire or Blaze TV, you know, Glenn Beck and all that, or others, you know, Stephen Crowder and so on, and looking at that. And if you collectively look at their viewers, and some other smaller channels, you collectively look at their viewers, then they quite substantially exceeded the views that the mainstream media is getting. So this suggests that the role mainstream media is playing is declining. Now, more and more people are coming across to social media, and away from the mainstream. Now, that means that the globalists lose the control, because they've got this tightly scripted, tightly coordinated, heavily propagandized information flow, And as more people move away from mainstream media into social media, they then move into a completely different information ecosystem. And this is where, I'm going with this, to information ecosystems. And the information ecosystem online, you've got a choice. You can go in any direction, and you can go and hear a number of points of view. For example, somebody, a commentator like Matt Walsh might have one view, or a view about one issue, and then you go to someone else like Stephen Crowder that may not have the same view about that particular topic. So you get quite a much wider variety of perspectives and information online, or you get people that outright disagree with Matt Walsh or Stephen Crowder, or and also you look at the way social media. It's like you look at a number of Glenn Beck, for example. He's got a number of people there. There's Glenn and Stu and others, and they may talk about an issue, and one may say, well, I think this about it. Someone else may have a slightly different take on it. And so you may get a number of perspectives in one, in just one cell, one view of one program. And Glenn Beck's is quite good for that. Now, it doesn't mean you have to agree or disagree, for that matter, with anything or everything that's said, but it does give you different perspectives, unlike the total homogeneity of the globalist media, which is you're only allowed to think one thing in one way, in one direction, and so there's no nuance or anything like that in it. And again, the lies and the omission and the just the sheer propaganda coming from the mainstream media, and you just don't get that in the social media. Now, there are channels on social media that do have a very much a one direction perspective on things, but you have the option of going to a wide variety of perspectives just by clicking on another channel. You don't have that option in mainstream media because it's all globalist, scripted and controlled. It doesn't matter whether you go to the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC or the Los Angeles Times or the BBC in Britain or the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. It doesn't matter where you go. You get exactly the same set of talking points and perspectives. There is not even the slightest nuance from one to the other. And that's the difference you get in social media. So it's a different information ecosystem because, well, it's not centrally scripted and controlled as one, but you can get easily and quickly get different perspectives going to different channels. But even the same channel, again, Glenn Beck may put a number of perspectives on the table, and there are others too, and also the analysis that and again, you don't have to agree with everything, but the analysis that someone like a Matt Walsh or a Ben Shapiro might have relies far more heavily on facts than it does on the hysterical emotional lies and nonsense that get pushed out by, again, the New York Times and CNN and so on. And that makes it a more reliable source of information. But the people, and most of the people I interact with, the people and these are well-to-do people, they live in their $5-10 million mansions and so on, they're completely captured. They have no thought outside of this. Now, these are people that live in multi-gazillion dollar houses in areas that are 99.5% white. If you do get any non-white people, they're the super rich Chinese or Indians that keep very much to themselves. They don't think anything about putting $150,000 on the table to buy a new car. They'll burn $100,000 on a vacation without even blinking. They'll burn $100,000 a year on putting their kids through expensive private, high schools, and the list goes on. And that's the sort of life they lead, and they're completely captured by the mainstream media. And I'm staggered to think of this, given the good education they had and the easy option they have of looking at other information. They can easily find some other information if they want, but they don't. It's almost like they choose not to. It's too scary to look at an alternative point of view. And this, I find this very surprising. But also, if you look at the college kids, the propaganda pushed through the education system, or not just college, but schools as well. It's a very mono view of the world, and just this very heavy-handed push. Again, the globalists are in control. So when they listen to the propaganda at school, then they switch on the the TV or watch cable television or something like that, they'll hear exactly the same thing on the globalist controlled news as they will on the globalist controlled education system. And the talking points will be the same, justification saying the lies will be the same. And that's all they hear. And there's very few that break out of that mold. I mean, some, and over time as they get older, they might. But the reality is that, looking at the women who are complaining about Trump being all the hysterical college kid type thing, complaining about Trump. The reasons that they're saying that the Trump win is terrible. Well, women everywhere won't be allowed to get aborted. We don't have sovereignty over our bodies, our own bodies. And women this and all of it's made up though. It's all lies. None of it's true. None of it's even a little bit true. So the tight information control the globalists have over the flow of information, but also people's minds and the radicalization, their belief that they must, Trump is literally Hitler and you have every right to stop him and kill him or this or that. That's incredible radicalization. I mean, it's almost beyond belief. And yet the globalists have sort of made this level of radicalization acceptable. And part of what is presented almost as normal discourse. But this is the thing of the information ecosystems. I get none of my other than looking at what is the opposition doing type thing. But I don't get any of my information or no information that I rely. And every time I look at the mainstream media, they're online, look at their headlines, other than straight factual things like there was a 10-car pile up on Highway 1 or something at 3 o'clock today. That's factual, that you can rely on. But anything else, any commentary about anything, political or social, it's all shot through with the most outrageous propaganda. I mean, lies upon lies, and they do it without any self-consciousness. So it's completely unreliable information, but it is the place where many do get their information. As a former work colleague, I was talking to on the phone just recently. Called me up, "Hey Billy Bob, how you doing?" And we were talking about, and he was mentioning the election. Oh yeah, I'm really worried about this election. All those Nazi troglodytes, and all those. It's all those lowlifes, and it's all those really bad people. It's all those uneducated, low-life, low IQ people, and they might. And he's giving me this. Now, this is a guy. I've worked with this guy. He's no idiot. And certainly in terms of business and commercial, management within the company, he was pretty good. And I've worked with him on a number of occasions in different capacities, and I would rate him highly. And yet here he is spouting his absolute nonsense, which is talking point for talking point, something that comes straight out of the MSNBC or the New York Times. I mean, I can't believe someone like that could be so easily captured. But again, it illustrates that when you control an information ecosystem so totally as the globalists do on the mainstream media side of things, you can capture people's minds, even some of the brighter ones, and have them parroting the talking points, all of which are nonsense. You've been fantastic today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.